Hi everyone, my name is Miranda and I am going to give you an update on how I've been doing on weeks 1 and 2 on Trikafta. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll do a quick little backstory. I'm 27 years old. When I was 4, I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. For those of you who don't know what CF is, it is a life-threatening genetic disease. So you get a gene from each of your parents in order to have CF. It's not something that you catch or is contagious. But I was born with it and diagnosed at 4, and it affects mainly your lungs and digestive system. In your digestive system, for me personally, I don't create digestive enzymes, so I have a hard time breaking down food and absorbing the nutrients. So I actually have to take digestive enzymes every time I eat in order to actually get, all the good stuff and calories out of what I'm eating. That for me has led to difficulty gaining weight, along with just stomach problems off and on, kind of all the time, on both ends of the spectrum. But again, that part just affects everyone differently. You'll see many people with CF who maybe get the digestive issues and not the lungs, or the lungs and not digestive, or some people have both. So you'll see a lot of different things. But for me, that's how I've been affected digestively, at least. And then the biggest part of cystic fibrosis for most people, and the most serious, is how it affects our lungs. So CF causes your body to produce thick, sticky mucus that stays in your lungs. Is really hard to cough out because it's so thick. And it's basically leads to having just this breeding ground for bacteria, which obviously in anyone, that is not good. So when you have this breeding ground for bacteria, lots of bacteria and viruses and all that stuff just get stuck in there, and it's really hard to get it out. So you can grow different bacteria, which requires many antibiotics. So I have been on a lot of antibiotics in my life, just to simply try to get rid of as much of those bacteria as possible, and so that they'll affect my body least. Because the longer you have these bacteria and this thick mucus in your lungs, it just leads to scarring in your lungs and lots of lung damage that if you allow to get, worse and worse and worse, it's hard to recover from that. So we do lots of preventative things as well. I take many medications, and specifically for my lungs, I take 2 inhaled medications that help to thin and just break down the mucus so I can cough it out easier. Yeah, that's kind of the backstory. Again, if you want more information on CF, that's definitely not all of it. There are many other things that are associated with CF. Too much for this video. So I'll leave the link below, and eventually maybe if you guys want me to, I could do a video explaining CF more in real people terms, you know what I mean? So I could totally do that. But for now, we're going to go with that. So what does that look like in my life? What does CF look like? So I do treatments twice a day, breathing treatments and taking medications. Like I said, every time I eat, I take digestive enzymes so that I'm actually getting the nutrition out of my food. I have to eat a lot of calories because of that. So I focus on just getting as many high calorie foods in my diet as possible. It's not something I've ever been restricted by. And I try fairly well to eat a healthy, balanced diet, but also I don't really say no to eating things. If I'm offered them, or it's not ooh, gotta watch those calories. That's just never been something I've had to do because of CF. And recently, especially over the last year and a half, I have experienced a lot of lung issues. Generally, just looking at a year for me, I would generally have to go in at least twice a year to get a PICC line, so an IV line placed to do IV antibiotics, because my lung functions would drop or I'd get sick, and I would culture different bacteria, specifically for me, Pseudomonas, which is a really common bacteria for someone with CF to culture, because Pseudomonas is everywhere. For someone that's normal, and normal for this video is going to be someone without CF. I know that's normal can mean many things, but for right now, I'm going to say a normal person is someone without CF or without lung disease. You could have you could have Pseudomonas in your body, and it wouldn't affect you in the slightest, because it's maybe in there, it'll come out, in there, it'll come out, but it is in our bathtubs, in our water, and all sorts of things. So with someone with CF, it's very easy to culture, and unlike a normal person, I can't just get that out of my lungs. It stays there, it festers, it grows, and then I get sick. I start coughing up green mucus. I get short of breath. I get all these different things associated with getting sick, getting like a respiratory illness. And my lung function, I'd go into my clinic, I'd get my lung function measured, and if I had dropped and I couldn't get up with oral antibiotics to my baseline lung function, that would mean I would go in for a PICC line. And that would happen twice a year, guaranteed, over the past probably at least 5 years. So obviously I don't want that to happen. That is like kind of a last resort. They are very, very, very strong antibiotics. They're not good for anyone's body. But at that point, they're absolutely necessary to get rid of this bacteria and to prevent your lungs from deteriorating further or getting more scarring, yada, 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 all that stuff. So that was happening to me, especially this last year. I was short of breath very often. I would go upstairs and be like, okay, I'm fine. And I'm someone who pushes through until they can't anymore. So I definitely wouldn't allow CF or shortness of breath or cough or being sick stop me from doing much at all. But many times I probably should have stopped, took a break, rested, took a nap or something, because that's just how I was feeling. I would get tired all the time, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I didn't realize how tired I was until now. I'm not tired. And I feel like being on Trikafta, I've seen a lot of that. Like, you don't realize how bad it is until it's not anymore. That's been a recurring theme, I think, with Trikafta. What's something else? My family knew me by my cough. If we were in a store, they could find Miranda probably within a couple minutes because I would cough. And they'd go, "Oh, I found Miranda." Multiple times that sentence was exclaimed through a store, through a house, through a something, because I was known for my cough. As of September, October, around that time, I couldn't get through a conversation without coughing. I would go to my coworker and be telling, my coworker Brittany a story, and I would start coughing and coughing, and just simple things like trying to tell a story or laugh would cause me to cough basically all the time. So those were some of the main symptoms. I took some notes here because I don't want to forget certain things to say. So in comes Trikafta, and Trikafta is a genetic modulator. There have been a few other modulators that I was not eligible for because you have to have specific genes to be eligible for these modulators, or they will not help you because they are genetic modulators. So it's not an antibiotic, it's not an anti-inflammatory, it's not a medication like that. It is literally a modulator for your genes. So it's changing the way your gene functions, which is amazing. It's incredible, really. And so in comes Trikafta, and you only had to have one copy of the most common CF gene called Delta F508 to get on Trikafta, and I do. I have one of those. And then I also, my other mutation, I think, is R553X. The X at the end means it's a stop mutation, so it's like it started and then it stopped. And so it doesn't function. So I have those two genes, and so I was eligible for it. So my doctors were extremely excited about this. I was extremely excited. And I really was excited because I hit an all-time low in my lung function. And so if you imagine, basically, let's just say 0 to 100, you could be above 100%, but that's for someone that's like very, very, very healthy, or like when I was younger, I would blow a 100% for my lung function. But I usually would be between, let's just say 50 and 60, somewhere in there, maybe mid 50s, maybe mid 60s, but I was hanging around there for a while. And then this last year, I just slowly declined and declined and declined. And then I had a scary thing happen in September. I got extremely bad pneumonia. I was short of breath, all this kind of stuff. And it must have been come November, I believe it was. I don't remember the exact date. I blew the lowest lung function I've ever had at 45%. So I had less than 50% lung function. I was short of breath. I was coughing all the time. I felt the worst I have probably ever felt. And we were on a round of oral antibiotics, and I was going to start IVs if my oral antibiotics did not increase my lung function. in the middle of this, I found out I was no longer eligible for PICC placements, which is a story for another day, but my veins said, sorry, Miranda, no more. You've had way too many PICC lines. They couldn't thread a PICC line through my arm. So before we went to other options, they said, hey, Trikafta's just got approved. In the middle of this, Trikafta got approved. So I was like, thank you, Jesus. This might be my way out of this. At that point, I needed something. I either needed IV antibiotics or I needed this drug to work. And they basically said, okay, we'll start you on Trikafta. And in 2 weeks after that, we need to see you. And if you've improved, we'll continue you on Trikafta. If you haven't, or you have to start the drug for any reason, you're going to have to get a port to get IV antibiotics. And you guys, Trikafta was a miracle for me. I know people are calling this different things. It's not a cure. I will say that. It is not a cure. Not everyone, there's 10% of people that can't even take Trikafta. And actually more than that, because some people have had adverse reactions to it, causing them to have to completely stop the drug. But 90% of CF patients are eligible for it, and a huge chunk of those people are seeing drastic improvements. And I mean life-changing improvements. So I started it, and day one, I take my pills, and it's twice a day. Here is, where's my Trikafta? Where'd it go? Oh, got it, it fell. So here's Trikafta. It comes in this handy dandy little pill container, and it's kind of foolproof, which is fantastic. It tells you your day 1 through 7, morning pills, night pills, and that is how it works. So you take your 2 pills in the morning, which have 3 different drugs in them, and this one at night has 1 of these drugs in it. So you take the 2 doses every single day, and you just take them within 12 hours of each other, and you have to take it with, I've been taking between 10 and 20 grams of fat in order for it to work. So day 1, I didn't really notice that big of a difference. Some people had experienced side effects from it within 2 hours. And in that way, I mean side effects like a huge purge, as the CF community has been referring to it as, a purge of mucus. So full disclosure, if you don't like the word mucus, you probably don't want to be watching this, because I will be talking about it a lot. Mucus has a very large part to do with CF, and that's just where we're at. So sorry if you don't like the word mucus, you're probably not watching the right video. So many people had this insane purge of mucus, just like coughing up all of the stuff that had been in their lungs for so long, it just comes out, which is a miracle, you guys. It's a miracle. So day 1, when I coughed, it felt a little bit easier to get mucus out, but it wasn't that big of a difference. By day 2, it was way easier to cough up mucus, and I was coughing up a lot of it. For me, it kind of just came in spurts. Like, it wasn't just a day long, I'm stuck at home because I feel so horrible, I'm coughing up all this crap and I just feel like death. Like, that was what it was like for some people. For me, it wasn't like that. I would cough up mucus easily, and which was great, you guys. Usually when I was sick, it would be like cough, 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 cough. I sound like I'm dying. Someone thinks I'm a smoker. Because my cough is so horrible, and then I get a tiny bit out, but it's so sticky, it just like hangs on. But all of a sudden on day 2, I could cough up a huge amount of mucus, and it just came out, and it was gross, and it was nasty mucus that needed to be out of my body, and it was great. I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's starting to work. And this continued for a couple days. On day 3, mucus was coming up very easily. I would cough and something would come out of my mouth. Like, that may sound normal to many people, but that was not normal for me. Again, I would have to go like cough, 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 and I'd get a little bit out. But it was just coming out like it was finally like had enough liquid to get out. It wasn't as thick and sticky, which was amazing. On day 3, I was really tired. I was so tired, and this has happened to a lot of people again, because just so much is changing in your body. Your genes and your body that has not functioned your entire life all of a sudden has woken up, is functioning properly, and is trying to get your body to function properly and reset and do all of these things, right? And so there was a lot going on in my body, and I was very tired from it. Day 4, I started to get a little bit of a headache. I could tell maybe it was my sinuses starting to loosen up, maybe to clear out the junk in my sinuses. But then later that day, when I went to get my pajamas on, I took off my leggings and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, my ankles are swollen, like they are fat. I'm a very small person. I'm a small built person. I don't have fat ankles usually, but they were big. Like I was retaining water and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that. Like, was I on my feet too long today? Something weird's happening. The next day, I was still feeling great in like the coughing category. It was the first day I really realized, that I could laugh and not cough. I kid you not. I mean, something funny would happen and I would laugh and I would always cough. That was just what happened. But that was the first day that I realized like that didn't happen and it was great. But again, my legs were very swollen. It continued for a couple days. The next day was the first day I experienced just an insane sinus headache. My teeth hurt so bad. I thought I actually had a toothache, but then I realized that I actually just had an extreme sinus headache that was putting pressure like on my teeth. So that lasted a couple days. One day I actually had to take pain medicine. I don't like taking pain medicine like ever. But I did have to take it because it was just so much pressure. So I was like huffing like peppermint oil and eucalyptus and diffusing all the things to try to just release that pressure. Helped a little bit, but it was just clearing. And that's something that hasn't stopped. The sinus clearing has not stopped for me, which is good, but also just like it's constant. I also, on day 7, so the end of week 1, I was very, very bloated. It's unclear what happens with your digestive system on Trikafta, but it's been the hope that it would help with our digestion and all that things because, again, our genes are starting to work. So I was extremely bloated, and that night with my coughing, so my normal thing before bed is I would just lather myself in oils, like respiratory oils all over my chest that helped me to breathe and not cough during the night. And then I would do my inhaler and I'd lay down and go to bed. And I would pick what side I wanted. Okay, do you want to sleep on this side tonight or this side? And let's say I picked my left side, I would get situated on my left side, I'd cough and cough and cough and cough and cough. And then I'd finally like take a deep breath, I'd stop coughing, and I'd be able to fall asleep. As soon as I'd wake up in the morning, or if I moved sides, I would start coughing and coughing and coughing. And that would happen to me all the time. If I got up to go to the bathroom at night, when I got up in the morning, I would have a coughing attack, like just coughing and coughing and coughing every single time. On day 7, I turned to Russell and I was like, hey, do you realize I just laid down and I'm not coughing? Like, it was crazy. And something that is like, it's huge for me. Like I didn't realize like how normal it was for me to lay down, situate myself so that I wouldn't cough all night and actually be able to sleep. And the fact that wasn't happening was like a miracle. And just proof like how well this was working for me. So day 8, I had talked to my doctor about the swelling, which was very, very bad at this point. I would almost wake up with swelling now versus it just being at night, and it went from my ankles / feet up until my knees, and I even noticed it in my thighs. And it was really bad. And so my doctor was like, hey, this symptom or this side effect isn't really written down anywhere. Like I can't find this in any journals, in any of the studies. So I need to see you to make sure nothing else is going on. So I went down to UW, which is where I'm seen at the University of Washington Medical Specialties Center. There's a few, I don't remember how many doctors there are, but there's a few pulmonary like cystic fibrosis specialists there. And I saw my regular doctor and he basically said, we need to check your heart, your kidneys, and your liver and make sure all those are functioning properly because those all could be affected or showing or would be like, that'd be side effects of like the function of those not working if you have this swelling. So he did tests on like my heart was fine. And then we did blood tests for my liver and kidneys to make sure those were functioning properly. At that time, so some crazy things at that appointment. First off, like I had said at the beginning, I have a hard time gaining weight, and I was hovering around 113 to 115 before I started this medication, which is way too low for my height. I've been trying to gain weight for a very long time, and I've been completely unsuccessful. So, excuse me. At this appointment, 7 days, this is day 8 of Trikafta. I was 126 pounds because of my water weight. So if that tells you how swollen I was, it's insane. The doctor was like, I would attribute a few of those pounds to actual weight gain, which is fantastic. But I would say probably 80-90% of that is your swelling in your legs because it was so bad. So that just shows you like how much water retention I had going on. That is 13 pounds in a week, which is nuts. So the most amazing part of that appointment though was that I got to do my lung functions. And I went into it going, okay, I hope I hit 60. I think I'm gonna hit 60, I'm gonna hit 60. And again, I was 45% before starting Trikafta. So I do my lung functions and they were 69% on day 8 of Trikafta. 1 week on Trikafta, and my lung function had gone up 24%. That was definitely the most exciting point kind of in this whole journey of Trikafta, that in a single week, my lung function jumped 24% from this gene modulator. And that is insane. And that is why I was feeling so great and not coughing. And it had just all of these, the shortness of breath, all these things were just gone. And that was just proof that this was working, and also made me really want to be able to stay on Trikafta. So my doctor was extremely excited. He said that was the largest increase he had seen so far. And yeah, so we were all just so excited and just hoping and praying that I could stay on Trikafta. So when they got the blood levels back from checking my liver and my kidney function, everything was totally normal. And in fact, something kind of crazy. So CF affects your liver. And my liver enzymes for I think my whole life that I'm aware of have always been elevated. That's like my normal is elevated liver enzymes, which obviously isn't a good thing, but that's how they always have been. And on Trikafta, the one thing they worry about is your liver function. Some people react badly to it and their liver function skyrockets, and they actually have to stop taking Trikafta. So that was my biggest fear in this, is that that's what was causing the swelling, and then I'd have to be taken off of it. But you guys, my liver function went from being high to normal on Trikafta. My mind was blown. Like, I was like, I have a normal liver function? Like, what is happening? This is fantastic. Like, I was like, thank you, Jesus. So that was amazing. So we just continued. He's like, hey, let's monitor you. Let me know in like 3 or 4 days if the swelling has gone down, and we'll go from there if we need to like add something to it. But I want to see if just your body just needs to regulate itself. So that's what we did. We waited and waited and waited. And by day 10, my swelling was still so bad, I actually had to buy new shoes because my feet were so huge, I couldn't even go to work in like my regular work shoes because they didn't fit. Wearing boots was a joke. I couldn't even zip them. And, but by day 12, I finally noticed the swelling had gone down, and I only had a little bit at night. So for the rest of week 2, my swelling continued to just go down and down and down. And by day 14, it was almost completely gone. My sinuses were still clearing out. I was starting to be able to breathe a little clearly, a little more clear. And one thing that stuck around and has been around for, it still is going on, and I'm past week 2 now, obviously, is my bloating, very bloated, and just monitoring that. And I may have to talk to my doctor about changing up the enzymes that I'm taking. I have taken like 1 less than normal because they say that sometimes we won't need as many. So I have tried that. I don't know that it's helping, but it's definitely not harming anything. So that's kind of what I'm going to try, talk to my doctors about that and see what they say at my next clinic appointment. But overall, it's been extremely exciting. One other thing, so everything in our body is thinning, and this sounds kind of gross, but another thing I've noticed for like women out there is my cervical mucus has gotten thinner as well. And I know that I've seen a lot of other people going through that, which is really good because many people with CF, women specifically, well, men with CF cannot have kids. But women generally can. But a lot of times the cervical mucus is so thick, they're not actually able to get pregnant. So that's something I'm very curious about. We have wanted to get pregnant for a very long time and have been unsuccessful. So I'm really excited to see how that goes and if that makes a difference in me. I'm really hoping it does. But so far, just overall, I know this video has been very lengthy, but overall, it has been amazing being on Trikafta so far. There's been, the side effects that are happening, but they're side effects that are going to go away and are just a result of my body doing what it's supposed to do, getting rid of this nasty mucus and this infection. And I'm really excited to see if I still culture bacteria in my mucus or if it's all gone. But yeah, that's been my experience so far on weeks 1 and 2. I know that's a lot of information, but especially anyone else that's watching this on Trikafta, it may be helpful to you. So I just wanted to give that update, and I'll continue to update as the weeks go on. And I'm really excited to see at my next clinic appointment what my lung function is and if it's gone up any higher or if I'm gonna, maybe stay around 70. But I'm definitely eager to find out. So very exciting. Thank you for watching. I hope that was informational for you. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'm pretty much an open book, and I know people have a lot of questions. So like I said, I'll leave information about cystic fibrosis and what it is. So you can kind of get more of a backstory. And yeah, but thank you.